Here are 3 stories you might have missed from this week at Newsroom.
So there was a New Zealand couple, and they crossed into Iran in July. As we found out this week, they were actually detained or held by the Iranian authorities. There's been a prolonged period of negotiation with the New Zealand government, and they've managed to get them out. So there have been some questions asked about whether the New Zealand government has sort of held back on its criticisms while these negotiations were underway, but certainly the hope is that we'll be a bit more vocal now. But an interesting part of it as well is that I had asked questions about this probably a month or so ago, and a number of other media outlets did, but the government said to us, look, please don't report on this. This could jeopardise their security. We're working behind the scenes to get them out, so let us get on with that. And we agreed to do that because you don't want to sort of jeopardise anyone's safety. And it's turned out relatively all right, but there are still questions about what the influencers were doing there, whether they were aware of the local rules and regulations. There was a don't travel advisory in place for Iran. So a few outstanding questions to be answered.
4 Uber drivers took a case. The judge ruled that they were employees because, in essence, they have no genuine control over their work. Uber holds all of the control. The only way they can earn more money is to drive longer hours. So what's happening right now is the unions are signing up other drivers. They'll be put to Uber and say, we represent all these drivers. They're claiming all this back pay. You need to pay up. And Uber will either say, okay, then, we had that decision that went against us. Or they'll say no and will perhaps attempt to challenge the decision in the Employment Relations Authority. But I don't think that there's much room for them to do that there, because the unions can say, well, there's this very clear case law.
Netball Australia is in really, really bad financial shape, and out of the blue emerged an angel in the form of Gina Reinhardt, who's the wealthiest person in Australia. She owns a mining company. She offered them $15 million over 4 years, which was a lot of money to Netball Australia. The thing was, there was then a player revolt, essentially based on remarks made by Gina Reinhardt's father, which were astonishingly racist and don't really bear repeating here. And the players essentially unified together and decided to turn down this sponsorship money, which would have kept Netball Australia solvent. So it was a really interesting story. It was a good demonstration of player power and players seizing their influence, being as they are employees, but also the product. But it also has this undertone of, well, if you want to be paid well in exchange for your athletic ability, then that money has to come from somewhere. And when it comes down to it, it's going to come from companies which have, in the best cases, checkered histories, and in the worst cases, outright bad histories.